Yeah.
Take it from Yenny then.
Yeah, I think just waiting until we're until we've got a bunch more people on, because I don't think we're quite getting started yet. But I am ready for the Facebook go live as well.
It's humanity first to the procrastinators to hold off on starting exactly on time.
Yeah, we generally end up starting at like 8:35. Sometimes later. I would like to get us to a point where folks are getting here on time / early.
Hello and good evening.
That's a culture thing. Hello, Suzanne.
Hello, Susanna.
We generally end up starting at like
Hey, Suzanne.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Great. Great to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to get to hang out with some of the Humanity crew for a little bit.
It's a good weekend for it. I'm sure everyone's jazzed up by all the coverage and action that we had over the weekend. It's a good time.
Definitely. I think the movement is definitely getting stronger. Like you can see it, just more people are picking up on it. More people are starting to talk about it. Less explaining what basic income is and more about why we need it.
Nice.
The progress is coming.
Building up the wave.
Yeah,
Come on, gang.
I know that there's at least 2 other people we're waiting on. Antoine and
Oh, they're going to be coming around 8:45.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we can just get started. Sending us live.
Welcome to Sunday Night Live. This is now the weekend following our Basic Income March. This was probably the biggest weekend we've had for the movement since probably the GOTV weekend in New Hampshire. The number of people who were mobilized, the weeks and really months of preparation for this event. This was the second annual Basic Income March. It was represented in 40 cities, something around 28 cities in the United States, having marches, having art installations. It was massive. That's why we're devoting the whole night to the roundtable discussing this. Just coming up after we'll do a briefing on the candidate support topics for continuing on toward the general election, and then we'll get into the roundtable. This was also a really big weekend coming from the passing of the late, great, notorious Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It's really, you can't say what that means to this country. We're grieving for her, and Wendy Hamilton will be on with us later this evening, to have some words for us for remembrance with her. So, coming into the slides now. Sorry. Everything we go over tonight has links on the slides, and the links to the slides themselves is at tinyurl.com/hfm-weekly-mtg-2020-09-20. So you can get caught up on how to join Humanity Hangs, how to join HFM Slack, our civic engagement newsletter, all the resources to get caught up in virtual events that you can take part in this week, and candidate events you can take part in this week. So we gathered, again, practicing our humanity first values that are integrity and transparency, putting humanity first, abundance, advancing policies that are not left, not right, but forward, math, in that we value data, numbers, and rational approach to the pressing issues of the day, and grace and forgiveness. And tonight, with the theme of our conversation being about the Basic Income March, tonight's program was brought to you by abundance. For too long, America has been operated with a mindset of scarcity, and the Yang Gang and Humanity First movement doesn't look at human beings as costs, but rather as investments in our country and society. America is the wealthiest and most advanced society in the history of the world. We must pick our heads up and operate in a mindset of abundance, the belief that there is enough to go around for all. It's a really transformative mindset, and it takes a transformative movement like what we're doing with the Basic Income March to have that effect. So we're all together here under this vision of a future where a data-driven government prioritizes intrinsic human value and quality of life. Good. So come on and join us and bring the wave. The next, sorry about that now. Yeah. So who we are all gathered here as the Humanity First movement is we were inspired by Yang's campaign, where he activated a huge numbers of people who hadn't previously been active in politics. So he did that through data-driven policies and through the values, where it was a politics of not tearing other people down and bipartisanship, or really more nonpartisan policies. So with the Humanity First movement, we're putting that at the core of the work we do, supporting candidates that carry forth Yang's policies and carry forth Yang's values, and doing all the work in volunteerism we do also carry forth those values. So, the candidates we're supporting at this time, most especially, include Blair Walsingham, who was our guest last week. Blair's phone banking schedule is coming up very soon. And again, in that previous link for previous slide with all the links, that's where you can find her phone banking schedule, soon to be posted in our candidates calendar. We had a text banking event today all day. That was really exciting. We got scores of people trained for text banking. To volunteer with her, go to blairforcongress.com/volunteer. And something really exciting that we're doing for Blair is one of her former opponents, who she defeated in the primary, who has endorsed her, has this calling list of 60,000 Republicans who we're reaching out to get that message of her policies, not left, not right, but forward, and working on flipping the seat that has been a Republican-held seat for 135 years in Tennessee. So we'd be making history with flipping votes and getting Republicans to support Blair and her nonpartisan policies. All right. And recently started up for J.D. Scholten is the candidate running for Senate in Iowa. And the chapter has been volunteering for JD since August, phone banking every Tuesday, 5 to 7. You can join them. May have made thousands of calls. The campaign's trusted them with hosting mobilized events advertise through Slack and Facebook mainly. They're building a relationship with the campaign that will also bring legitimacy to the group Humanity Forward Iowa. This group will be sending the Humanity First Movement questionnaire to the other candidates, and that's how we're building up our relationship with candidates, is with these questionnaires, getting to know them better, their policies, in the direction of creating a candidate scorecard. And Antoine Pierce, is Feng here or John Hugh here to speak on Antoine Pierce's campaigning?
I don't think
Okay.
they're-
Yeah. All right. So the Louisiana chapter, led by John Hugh, has recently started campaigning for Antoine. They've created a Slack to organize on, and they'll continue working with Antoine to further build on this and provide more consistent phone banking parties and sessions. He will be here tonight joining, so you'll get to hear more about him and his march that he took part in Baton Rouge. And Brendan, would you like to take it and tell us how you're supporting Suzanne Hugg in Arizona?
Yeah, we have a number of events, but we do get together every Wednesday to phone bank, and we have a lot of other exciting projects in the work. But yeah, it's game time. So Suzanne Hugg, man, it would mean so much to us in Arizona to move the needle on universal basic income and build up a bigger following. If we can put her over the edge in this historically, deep red district. And I'm proud to say that our volunteers, I feel very strongly that we'll be able to make it happen. So please, if you'd like to help us out or send us a donation, please check out hugforhouse.com or sign up at mobilize.us for updates for our events. Thanks.
Thank you, Brendan. And Brendan is the president of Humanity Forward Arizona. Now coming on for our round table. So who is here tonight who is part of a basic income march attending with Roundtable? Look like.
Hi, Colleen.
Hey, Suzanne.
Can I just say, just a note about our events that we have.
Yes.
This coming weekend, September 26th and 27th, we are having an Action for Education weekend. Arizona is a battleground state. We are one of the areas that could literally tip the presidential election. And the county that I'm running in, Maricopa County, basically controls Arizona. It's the fourth largest county in the US. The East Valley, where we're located, has a lot of independent voters that we're trying to reach out to. And we're calling for myself because I'm really working toward funding education along with a school board candidate that we need to get reelected. So it's Action for Education. It's the 26th and the 27th. We have calling all day long, and we need a huge number of volunteers to really make this successful and effective. So for anybody who's thinking, hey, I've got 2 hours, I've got 4 hours I could put in, I'd really ask that this is the weekend we're focusing on, because out-of-state Arizona voter in-person voting starts October 7th. So this is really our last big weekend we've got before people are starting to vote en masse.
Yeah, this is a whole other game where GOTV weekend is early October. Yeah, because it's a lot of retirees, right, in Arizona. That's a huge part of the population. Older voters are early voters. Yeah.
Well, in Arizona, we've traditionally voted by mail. Probably 85% of our people vote by mail all the time. So we're good at it, we're used to it, and people are making a plan to vote immediately when they get their ballots. So, I mean, October 7th through October 10th honestly could decide this election. And that's why it's so important to get this early support and to make sure that we're making all the calls we can this coming weekend.
Okay, yeah, weekend of action focused on Arizona. We'll play into that. Thank you for bringing that up, Suzanne, about who knew that this was the fourth largest county in the country, and what power that you had at this point to really tip Congress. Here we're joined with Reverend Wendy Hamilton. Thank you so much coming with us, Wendy.
Oh, no problem. Thank you all so much for having me. It is my pleasure, and I appreciate what you all are doing.
So we'll be skipping into the basic income March roundtable, but first with this moment with Reverend Wendy, would you have some words for us with remembrance of Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
Well, first and foremost, let me say, why Ruth Bader Ginsburg? 2020 just keeps outdoing itself, and not in the best ways. And I have to say, this one was not necessarily unexpected, but at the same time left us all fairly speechless. I can't even put into words the impact that Justice Ginsburg has had on the world, really. And she fought till her very, very last breath to make sure that the policies, the rights, the laws that she helped to author and to put into place remain. And so when she left this world on Friday, a lot of hope, I think, and a lot of dreams felt like they left with her. But at the same time, after the initial grief and the shock, there was this resolve that we began to see, and that we are beginning to see, that people say, you know what, we're going to pick up the mantle. We're going to take on what she started, and we're going to finish it. And that's what great sort of prophetic world changers do. They come, they serve their time, if you will. They get things started, and then they leave us and they pass the torch. Folks like John Lewis, Martin Luther King and others, but certainly Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been such an inspiration, was an inspiration, particularly to women of all over the world, all races, all creeds. And so I just want to take a moment and acknowledge her for who she was, for what she did, the changes that she made. She was fierce. She was tiny, but she was powerful. She was unafraid. She took on what was unpopular and she made it popular. And so in this moment, I would just like to honor the spirit of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We thank you that she has now made her transition. We believe that it was peaceful, asking for her now to have eternal rest, thanking her tremendously for all of her contributions to moving humanity forward. We honor her. We honor her legacy. We honor her spirit, her resilience, her bravery, and her actions. May we live up to the ideal that was Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and may we continue carrying out the charge that she left for us. May her legacy be a blessing. Thank you for her presence, her life. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Wendy, for bringing that to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if I could say something real quick just from Arizona, during the Basic Income March, we were talking about the civil rights movement and how we're really carrying the torch from that time period on to now. And, everyone's talking about what the Republicans are going to do, what McConnell's going to do, if they're going to be able to fill that seat. But I just place my faith in the power of people and good ideas. Mm-hmm. They will win the day. And I really believe that we all stand on her shoulders.
Agreed. I don't think there's no one person that is bigger than an idea. You understand what I'm saying? The person, we introduce the idea, but the idea is bigger than that person. And so the person introduces it and allows the rest of us to sign on to promoting that idea, because they know that their time here is limited, but they expect and anticipate that others will sign on to that idea and carry it on long after they've left. And that's what pioneers do. That's what trailblazers do. That's what leaders do. And so, yeah, it's bittersweet that she has transitioned, but she's left us a lot to work with. So what we're going to do, it's on us now.
That's right. And, it's up to all of us to join our voices together. Every single one of us has a part to play. It doesn't matter, if you're shy, if you're outgoing, if you're new to politics, if, you're an old hand and have at politics and really feel the burden of many years of this struggle. But, we're all family in this struggle for the world we want to create. And so, as a board member of Humanity First Movement, I just want to open up this discussion really to everyone here, and especially our guests, to share their thoughts and in good faith conversation, as is our tradition in this movement. So could we, if you'd like to speak or have some time, ask questions, please raise your hand or put your name in the chat and we'll get around to you.
Looks like Carrie Templeton comes up first for questions. Carrie?
Yes, hello everyone. First off, Reverend Wendy, thank you so much. That was very beautiful and I appreciate that. I am Carrie Ann. I am the Vice President of Humanity Forward Georgia, and I put on our Basic Income March yesterday with the help of, Lamont and Rachel and everyone else. So it was very exciting. And I just want to say, because last year when I went to the Basic Income March, it was my first event, like getting into the Yang Gang. I had seen them in the debates. And so it was my first time like meeting people in real life. And it was very exciting. And so this year when it came up, the opportunity to be the host, I just jumped on it. I was like, we have to do this. I'm so excited. And I just want to say we had 7 speakers, and 2 of them were members of HF Georgia, but the other 5 were candidates for office. And then we had 1 city council member who's already in office, who all supported UBI. Plus, Atlanta has a mayor. She did not participate in the events, but she does support the UBI pilot. So I feel like Atlanta, we may not be big like New York or Los Angeles, but we are really setting the tone for UBI. And I was so excited yesterday and so pumped to hear those speakers. And we had about 35 people turn out for our event. So it was just really great. And I want to thank, Income Movement and Humanity Forward and HFM and everybody for all their support and making it happen. It was just so much fun yesterday.
That's awesome. I wish I could have been there. Hey, how was the humidity over there? I know it's pretty bad in the summer. Is it cool enough?
Yesterday was 68 degrees and cloudy, so it was perfect, except the wind. We had like the Basic Income March signs on our stage and our stand and everything, and the wind just kept blowing to where we just had to take them down. So that part was not fun, but the rest of it was perfect.
Got to prepare for wind. I don't know if that means kites with meth on it or something else. I don't know.
We do. We need more kites and parades. Clay, Clay, would you tell us about the Austin events?
Yes, we had a wonderful event in Austin. I live in San Antonio, so I drove up to Austin, and we were on a corner in downtown Austin, right in downtown Austin, and the weather was beautiful. We had a tent, and what we did is we had poster board, and the question was, what would you do if you had a $2,000 check today? And we had poster board, and folks would write their answers down. And so the plan, and we had lots of folks come by. It was just a wonderful day, the whole day, weather, everything. And so I was with SAS, if any of you guys know SAS from Austin. And so the plan is he's going to take those poster boards, and I took video and stuff. He's going to take those poster boards and put them on some of the closed businesses.
Wow.
Just to display around the Austin area, around that Austin downtown area.
Wow.
So it was really fantastic. Now, I one of the things I wanted to ask, I did some video. I was trying to put a clip together, and is that still useful?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna, I'll probably have that done tomorrow.
Yeah, and Humanity First movement, we would love to boost it. I think the people who are going to most want it is Income Movement. They'll probably be putting together some media for that. We'll get the links up.
Yeah, please do. I was going to put a couple of them together, same video, put different banners on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, our video here from Arizona is still being worked on. I was hoping it could be ready for this, but we'll have it out soon. But yeah, we had just a great time, even if it was over 100 degrees here in Phoenix, and we did a little car parade. I was able to get a loudspeaker and just like blast with my megaphone out into the streets in front of our parade. Martin Luther King's speeches about a guaranteed minimum income, and I thought if anyone could really speak to the importance of it would be him. And it's amazing how those arguments from back then just ring true still today. And so we gave out flyers, and it was a great time. Arizona, though, the heat, everyone else is like pushing these big events in the middle of our hot part of the year. So we're going to have some bigger outside events sometime later.
Suzanne, do you have anything to build on that in your experience in the march as a campaigning official?
Yeah, Arizona is learning so quickly, and it's fantastic to see the enthusiasm and that people are really getting more familiar with what a basic income is. But now Arizona is a very financially conservative kind of state. And so we have to get through those kind of standard actions about giving people money. Well, what's that going to do? And I actually had a virtual town hall with some other small business owners like myself. And we talked about how a universal basic income and healthcare for everybody, it would actually support and increase our economy. It would allow people to go into small business ownership. It would give our customers the money to actually support local businesses, and how it really builds everybody up, and it creates a basis for capitalism. It's not a replacement for it. So we're able to have some really good kind of deep dive discussions about that. And those will be available on my YouTube channel at Suzanne Hug for House.
Oh, great. Yeah, those deep dives we need to get into, kind of get past the surface talking points now. We've been going through those. People have heard them. They're ready for more. Michael, tell us about the Kentucky events that you had.
So 3/4 of the people didn't show up because after Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, most of them showed up to McConnell's house 20 minutes away from our march. So we had 3 people from Illinois, and then the state rep we endorsed, Dustin Burley. And we didn't do any speaking or anything like that, but we walked a mile through downtown with our bullhorn chanting and everything like that. And then we ended up going to Jeffrey, ended up having a lot of like civil discourse about the policy of the universal basic income, some of the other policies we support. And by the end of it, they were asking us to, oh, sorry if you can hear my bird, but they were asking us if we could try and convince Mayor Fisher of Louisville to start a trial in the west end of Louisville. So we were going to work with BLM Louisville to get something like that maybe started. Try and convince Mayor Fisher to join the Mayors for Guaranteed Income.
That's great.
Yeah, put the pressure on. That's been a growing movement. There's really been sort of a shift of the Overton window with the Mayors for Basic Income. Shifting as we come away from the general election, what we'll be doing is coming from these candidate spotlights that we've been doing on Sunday nights is we'll have spotlights for mayors. So put the pressure on him, tell him he's got, we'll give him a platform. We've got Carrie, you had another note to chime in. I saw your hand up.
Yes, I was just going to speak on behalf of Barrington as I work on his campaign, and he was one of our speakers at the Basic Income March. And I just wanted to remind everybody, or maybe let them know if they didn't know, that Barrington was not originally Yang Gang. He is not HF endorsed, even though we've applied. He came to Basic Income through Martin Luther King. He's an Atlanta native. And so he made his speech about that. And of course, he brought up, some poignant points about race and equality and income and so on and so forth. But I always like to remind people that we are lucky that Barrington came to the Yang Gang movement with open arms, because his initial policy advisor and campaign manager was a hardcore Bernie bro. And so the beauty of us coming together and him allowing us to influence him with Yang's ideas and how the freedom dividend would work it's just been amazing. So I just like to remind people that not everybody comes to Basic Income through Yang. And so we really appreciate Barrington embracing Yang's ideas and the way to implement it.
Yeah, that's super exciting seeing the coalition build. And it's been really special. He refers to it, I've always heard him refer to it as a guaranteed income in Dr. Martin Luther King's words, and preserving that legacy and that, Atlanta roots of that. Reverend Wendy, what city were you in for the Basic Income March?
Where I live, Washington, D.C.
In there, okay. I'm sorry. I know you're all over the place, so I wasn't sure what your home base was, actually.
Here's that, I'm subject to be on a plane in different places, but I actually do have a physical home in Washington, D.C. And so, what I love about even this call and what we're talking about, as I was speaking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the fact that, ideas are bigger than the individual sometimes that introduces them, everybody didn't come to this universal basic income conversation about Yang, but at the same time, many of us did. And when I got involved with the Yang campaign, it was based on an article that I read introducing Andrew Yang when he first joined the presidential race back in 2018. I read an article in the New York Times, "The Robots Are Coming," and it was talking about this young Asian gentleman who had just joined the presidential race. And I'm reading this article and he's introducing the idea of basic income. He's talking about automation and the threat of it and how that was much more prevalent in terms of being responsible for Trump as much as, some of the other things that people suggested. But it was the idea of basic income. I was introduced to it at that moment and I was like, what is this? Because this sounds really practical. This sounds tangible. And lo and behold, here I am, 2 years later, and I'm down marching on the mall in Washington, D.C. with a microphone and flyers like, "We need UBI, we need it now." So that just tells you the idea, even though it was introduced modern day by Yang, it has taken on a life of its own. And so all of these other folks now are helping to promote it and make sure that it is continuing to be a part of the national dialogue. And so I just wanted to say that I appreciate that. And that was part of Andrew's goal from the beginning. It was never about him. It was always about the policy. It was always about the ideas. And so when you have someone who has that level of humility, others can then just, step in and kind of sign on and help carry and move it forward. So I always like to acknowledge that. And we gathered in DC, and, there were different demonstrations all over the country. Some people did bike parades and car parades, and, some people did art installations or like the gentleman said in Austin, I love that, just gathered on the corner and had people sign posters. We did an art installation in DC where we showed up in front of HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and we planted eviction notice flags there was a big planter outside, and we planted these eviction notice flags, and then we had large posters that we surrounded around them. And we did that because we wanted to reflect the 2,000 evictions that have been filed in DC since the start of the pandemic. And how if those persons had access to a universal basic income, perhaps they would have not been in a position to be facing eviction from their home and having their belongings placed on the side of the curb. And so we felt like the Housing and Urban Development was a good symbolic place to start out with that installation. We had all of these flags, so as people walked by, they could look at the flags. That would draw them like, what are those flags? And the flags were actual eviction notices. And then you could read some of the signs that we had posted around them that said, one check is not enough. Who could be next? These flags represent families. We need to be paying families so that they don't find themselves faced in this crisis. And so we gathered there. We had a couple of speakers. I spoke, Steve Schafferman, who's written a wonderful book on UBI entitled Our Future. I know he's working, doing some advising with Blair Walsingham's campaign, but he is a UBI that's been doing this thing for 20 years. He spoke, and then it was a small but mighty group of us, maybe about 20 of us. And once we finished with our speeches at HUD, we took off marching, and we marched down 7th Street across. If you're familiar with DC, we were closer to the Capitol. We didn't want to go over by like the White House and Black Lives Matter Plaza because there's already marches going on. In DC, if you want to march every weekend, you can. It just, whatever your cause is, there's going to be a protest somewhere in the city all the time. And so for us, kind of finding a place that was removed away from the sort of the ground zero for protest gave us a little bit more leeway to engage with people, to interact with them as we were marching along and chanting, "We want UBI, we want it now." We had our banners and some handouts, and we gave them to folks. But it was just really, we stopped and took a picture right there on the mall with the Capitol in the backdrop. And it was just really empowering to feel like, you know what, we may just be a small group of voices, but you add our voices to the 40 plus other cities around the world that are marching collectively today on behalf of basic income, that says something. That is a movement. That's not just a march, that's a movement. And that's what we endeavor to remind ourselves of as we participated yesterday in Washington, D.C.
That sounds so phenomenal. I wish I could be there in our nation's capital to see all that. And I saw the pictures. The art installation looked amazing. I can't wait to hear the speeches. There was a lot of soul energy out there, and I think Gandhi said at one point, in a small way, each of us can shake the world. So Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I said. I said, listen, it only takes one pebble to make a wave. You toss it in the ocean, it's going to make a wave. And so don't ever think that you can't contribute something. We all have something, have a part to play. Don't ever feel like your one voice can't change the world.
That's great.
Are there other cities, others in this crowd whose city you can tell us about their event? Anyone here from Boston?
So we don't have Gray in the room right now. So I actually did not get a chance to go out there. But I know that we had about 200 people that attended. We had a very a long list of speakers. I know that both Gray and Melissa Lynn, our state lead, spoke, as well as a number of, there was a city councilor, some state reps who introduced the UBI trial bill into the state legislature this past term. They were going to do a trial, 300 people, 100 in each of a rural, suburban, and urban area. So we're trying to get that worked together so we can work with them to get it on the list again next year for consideration. So I was really happy to see them there. And we streamed it in a bunch of places. The one of the major Boston newspapers, I think it was the Boston Globe, did an article on us. Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's awesome, having major mainstream press for that. Anyone else get press releases out or find media contacts in the process of this? Finding ways to amplify your voice through the media. Or we can always take social media by storm. That's what Yang Gang does best.
Yeah, if I could speak just a little bit to that element, it seemed like most of the people that we had come out were newcomers we haven't seen in our other events, and they came through social media and saying that they just saw like a tweet, like a single tweet, and it was enough to bring them out. So these events, with the power of social media, you can reach large groups pretty quickly if it's done well. And we really have to thank the Income Movement for doing so much of that legwork among a lot of other organizations. And also, just to speak to Yenny a little bit, like we have lots of our members who they've made the choice that because of coronavirus, they want to keep their activism completely indoors. And I think we, as the Humanity First movement, we've got to realize that there are people that are equal members of our movement can be just as valuable, that can serve from a distance. And, some of them are probably watching this YouTube stream right now. And, but, phone banking alone can make such a big difference. And it's going to take all of us kind of doing what we like to do, what's effective in an even way to get the kind of change we want.
This is Jim. We actually marched from Virginia. We probably had the longest march. It was 4 miles.
That's a trek.
Wow. Yeah,
okay. We marched over the Potomac River, and thankfully I ran into Matt from the Zach and Matt show in DC, and he interviewed me a little bit, and then I think he retweeted me, and then I think Andrew Yang and the Income Movement retweeted me, and so our picture on the Memorial Bridge with the Lincoln Memorial in the background got like 370 likes, so that, and 60 shares or something. So it's so nice to get that boost from Andrew himself. And we enjoyed kind of doing some sightseeing on our way to the march. We stopped at the Marine Corps Memorial, the Iwo Jima Memorial, and took some pictures along the way. But I mean, I guess I want to add that because of the election and my lack of time right now, I'm content with our performance, but I do want us to keep building Northern Virginia and DC and bring more people to future events. I think it might make sense to do a special basic income event of some kind in the beginning of January, February, when there might be a lot of legislation passed. Maybe we should do something big in a few months because that's going to be the real and critical timing for trying to get an agenda passed with cash payments and part of it. It's going to be maybe January, February, March, or April of next year, the first 100 days. I don't know who will be president, but it could be a critical time. But anyway, so I think we need to do more to rebuild DC, and I'm trying to reach out to more folks in DC and Maryland. So it was nice meeting Reverend Wendy.
Brendan was saying earlier that it was, over 100 degrees in Arizona. So I think another March in February might be in their favor.
Yes, please. Yeah, we'll get out some crowds then. I promise.
Reverend Wendy, did you have something to add? It looked like you unmuted for that moment.
Oh, did I unmute? Well, yeah. I can always add something. I'm a preacher. Never ask a preacher, do you have any words to add? We'll be here all night. Well, I wanted to say to Jim, thank him for marching over, for taking that 4-mile march and then bringing his group over to join with us in DC. We had initially had about 40 folks or so the last time we checked income movement on the national sign-up sheet. But I do think that the unexpected death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg did play a role in some folks and their participation levels. I don't know if you all saw all the media coverage of the numbers of people that lined up outside of the Supreme Court on Friday night after the news had broken. I mean, by the time the night ended, there were nearly 1,000 people holding a vigil outside on the Supreme Court steps. And I think, that kind of impacted the energy. And then also too in DC, as I said, there's so many movements and so many marches happening all the time. It can be, your march can kind of get lumped in with every other march. You understand what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, DC, it's another march kind of thing. But I agree with Jim wholeheartedly that after the election, that's going to be the ideal time to put pressure on Congress, the next Congress, to include some form of UBI, stimulus payments, direct cash relief payments. They're going to have to do that. I mean, in my opinion, prayerfully, if Biden is elected, there's already, bills on the floor or in the House that are asking for these things. And so I think it will be an opportune time, and particularly for those of us who are here local in DC, but for, others that want to come in. I saw some people saying, I feel like I need to fly in to DC. I think DC is going to be kind of busy here in January, regardless of who wins. So if you all are thinking about coming, take that into consideration, because I think that there's going to be a lot of folks making their way here, but it will be an opportunity for us to join our voices. And I think the momentum is here. There's something to be said about timing, right? And I think that this is a window of opportunity for basic income to finally, be heard on the levels that it needs to be heard for it to be implemented. When you look at the mayors for AGI, when you look at all of the pilot projects, other pilot projects around the country, and just the fact that it's more mainstream now as an idea, if we're going to exploit this window and this timing, now I feel like now is the time to do it.
Yeah, time to push it. And in the next weekend is our weekend of action for Suzanne Hug. We've got this ebb and flow that we have going between, contacting voters and pushing for the candidates that are going to be the next Congress, and then contacting Congress. So there's always this fluidity that we're doing as activists. And, there are people who prefer one over the other, who are more comfortable with one than the other, being with crowds and doing demonstrations, or being at home and text banking. But we have to push outside of our comfort zones, and we do it together. We do Zoom calls together for text banking, for phone banking. So I'll be there for Suzanne Hug on this weekend, and work on flipping those seats so that then it can be, people like her and like Blair Walsingham who are, knocking on their doors to have basic income passed in going into January, into February.
Yeah, and also, just to make sure that everyone gets a little bit of credit, especially put work into it, I have to give a shout out to the Movement for a People's Party for referring a lot of their supporters to our event. And I think it really speaks to how our movement can gather support from different parties in this effort to get universal basic income and a lot of other great humane policies passed. And, I think I speak as someone who's concerned by the development of certain events in our politics. What we could be seeing with this election, it's a historic election. There's been none like it. And we might all have to really stand together against some dangerous forces out there. This situation could get uglier before it gets better, and we have to start building up that strength now. And regardless of how bad it gets, it's going to be useful to create the better world we all want. So it's game time, people. Get pumped. Does anyone else have any last comments? We're getting close here to the end of our hour, so I would love to fit some comments or questions.
Yeah, check. You guys can hear me?
There we go.
All right, check it out. I know that you guys sometimes this stuff is sometimes stuff people want to hear. So I'm gonna set this timer for 3 minutes, and it's gonna be done in 3 minutes. So you ain't gotta wait forever, all right? Here we go. Boom. All right, bam. So check it out. I have this thing called the MPP election, and I really want you guys to attend because honestly, right? Check it out. I'm going to have it on September 28th. September 29th is the election where actually, it's the debate between Biden and Trump. So the thing is that the winner of the MPP election, right? It's just a fun little thing. I'm going to buy ads on Facebook. They keep fucking rejecting it. I don't care. You know what I mean? What happens if Yang does real bad in that election? That's not cool. You know what I mean? Why not win it? You know what I mean? Also, the winner gets to kind of ride maybe some press. You know what I mean? Yo, look at who won. That's kind of cool. It makes people want to join Yang Gang. You know what I mean? Makes people want to, volunteer with us because it feels like we're winning. So can you guys, oh shit, it's 45 seconds. Can you guys do it with me? What's up? Let's talk about it right now. Are there any objections? It's coming from me. I am MPP. It's the People's Party. It's your party and my party. It's Yang's party too. Why are you guys saying you guys are not part of this? We are part of them too. We are one group amongst many, and we can be leaders in this. There's many groups, right? Libertarians are coming in. I'm inviting everybody.
Right, but MPP has a leadership. They have an organizational structure. They have a system.
I'm a leader. I'm a New York leader. They haven't replaced me yet.
I was just asking if it was coming from you, as in New York,
me,
or
I'm claiming leadership.
Well, hey,
you know
just
I'm
just
not.
like
I'm not dissing them. I'm just running this event. Did anybody say that I couldn't run the event? Has anybody said it's unofficial? Let them say it. They can't say it. Let them say Assange, right? Let them put him on the platform. What's wrong with that? This is very clear. This is not an unreasonable request. So stop making stuff up. You get what I mean? It's very straightforward if you guys have been following the situation. I hope you have.
Hey, Edward. Hey, I appreciate.
Yeah. 1 minute left. Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, if you want to use the rest of the minute.
No, it's okay. I'm done. I want you guys support.
Cool.
Please. It's at facebook.com/MPP election 2020. There's no beef here. I'm not asking you guys to screw MPP, right? I'm asking you guys to participate in the election. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I have Snoop Dogg on the flyer. Honestly, right, I could see Snoop Dogg beating Andrew Yang. Honestly, I don't want it to happen. I want Yang to do well, guys. Come on. You guys are best.
Yeah.
You guys just have events. You guys are the best mobilization. Think about it. Who am I going to negotiate with? The winners of this particular election or the people who did shitty? You know, I mean, think about your relationship with all the other organizations, and what we want to negotiate from them right now is in terms of making events happen, who to talk to. We're the people to talk to. You get what I mean? Okay. Hey, my time is up about, all right? I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, we love your passion, Edward. And, like we said earlier on, it's going to take all of us lifting where we can from our side of the country, from the part of the political spectrum that we come from. And also a part of that is we're all not going to agree on the best tactics and strategies.
I like that. I think that's a good thing. I think that's a healthy thing for Yang Gang. And I love that about this group.
It's the foundation of our movement is our diversity, is we're all coming together. And so there are some people here who see the Movement for a People's Party as a great vehicle for change, whether that's winning power directly or just influencing the conversation in the Democratic Party. And then there's others who believe that working within the Democratic Party is the best way to accomplish that change. Doing
both ways.
And so we have room. We can totally do both. Yeah. So what I'd like to propose is that we have that, like your whole project, in our civic engagement channel, so that we can get together people who are supportive of MPP to organize people to go and get involved in that process. And if MPP shuts it down and asks us to shut it down, then that's a different story. But like you said, they're
gonna shut it down. Oh my god, that'd be hilarious.
Man.
That would be hilarious. Come on, man. Yo, you what? Oh my god, it's hilarious. I'm buying ads. I don't care. Yo, let Yang Gang lose. Are you serious?
I like
whatever, guys. It's up to you if you want to vote. I didn't ask you, right? About official stuff. Whatever. I do what I want. I don't care who you say you are. You know my line.
We've got a new voice coming to this conversation in the form of Brian Mannix. What are you bringing in for us, Brian? Thank you for coming into this conversation. Check unmute. Brian, I'm looking for you. I want to unmute you. Okay.
He's away from the keyboard or something. He's away from the keyboard.
Oh, you just went back to muted. There you go.
There we are. Sorry, my son just interrupted and is on his way over to my house right now. So I told him I was in the middle of a call. But I wanted to introduce, it's a little bit off topic, but I think it's something that I just feel incumbent on introducing to each group that I belong to, and that I think shares like-minded things with me. And I think the UBI, people that support UBI and Humanity Forward and Humanity First would be behind this. And I think my greatest concern is that Donald Trump is going to declare victory on election night and that the votes aren't all going to get counted. And I'm concerned about our democracy. And I guess I want to start planning on what the hell we should do in response to counteract it if it does happen, because I feel like it's like 90% happening. So I wanted to throw that out there. I wanted to see if you want to discuss it, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. But I wanted to throw it out there because I feel that this is a group of leaders. It's a group of people that followed Andrew Yang at one point, and people that can really see the future. And I think this is a future that might come to pass where Trump tries to grab the election illegally.
I'd like to respond to that. Thank you, Brian, for bringing that up, because it is something that I think about and I talk about with party leadership, at least in the Democratic Party here in Arizona. And I know that this is something that could happen. And it's one of the reasons that we're working really hard to have some wide margins. Right. And that's one of the reasons we don't really look at polling, because we all know that polling doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot when you've got Trump involved. Right. That people aren't necessarily telling us what they're really going to vote. And a lot of it comes down to what's the news that they saw last before they cast that ballot. So that's why right now volunteer efforts are so important, because if we can have a wide margin of victories, especially in Senate races, especially in that presidential race, then that's going to be a lot harder for him to argue. Not that he won't, but it's going to be a lot harder to argue. It'll be a lot harder to get popular support. And the other part is, I believe Joe Biden is putting together a fantastic team that is 100% prepared for this possibility. I'm excited to see who he's bringing in. I know Andrew's made a lot of comments about his potential involvement in the next administration. And I believe that there's a lot of discussion going on in the background so that there will be an immediate and united front for across social media, across everything, if anything like that tries to happen. And we need to be ready to be in action too. We need to be ready to support and to come together and to jump into these groups and to communicate quickly. So I think it's smart to have a plan for that. You know, it's anything else. Like if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. And with Trump, we never know what's going to happen. So it's good to be prepared.
I'm sorry, yeah.
That's both like a call to arms and a reassurance from that. But yeah, there's...
let me even say, you know, with RBG's passing, we need to take a moment to honor her. Every time I go shopping, the fact that I can use a credit card as a woman, I thank RBG. I mean, she really made some huge societal changes, and we do need to take a moment to honor her, just as we recently honored John Lewis and the incredible legacy that he left. You know, and we're out there, we're getting into some good trouble right now, right? Bringing these things up, pushing new ideas, pushing the boundaries, and especially rejecting the partisan divide that people try to lump us into. We are being revolutionary in that way, by being free thinkers and by communicating and connecting when there's a lot of forces that are trying to divide us, both inside our country and outside of them.
Yeah.
But RBG's passing, we knew that that was going to be coming. So while it's an emotional trauma right now, it's a shock, it doesn't really change the fundamentals of this election. We have to look at the 200,000 people who have died because of the administration's failed response. And sometimes when you're talking about 2020, it's easy to say that this is an act of nature, right? Like 2020 is just insane, right? Murder hornets. I mean, who saw that coming? But a lot of the things that are really hurting people were preventable. And we need to remember that. This didn't have to be like this, but it's because of failed leadership choices over and over again. And that's why we're coming together, why we have to work so hard, because we can't lose again in November. We can't. 4 more years of this, then 2021 is going to look just like 2020. And so will 2022 and 2023. How many businesses have already closed? How many people are already losing their housing, their lives, their livelihoods? You know, this is a moment to stand together and fight, because we've already seen what this looks like. So just a couple of thoughts I wanted to share, because I know sometimes it does seem like it's all crazy and it's all out of our hands. And it's like, hey, we got 45 days where we can actually change this, where we can actually stand up, come together, and make a difference.
I want to also respond to Brian's question. You know, my first thought is, should that happen, we have to rely on our institutions. And which and then the first question I had to myself was, which institutions are the ones that would have the, whose responsibility it would be to respond for us? Because certainly we as individuals, we depend on our institutions.
I want to ask a question about that, yeah? About responsibility, yeah? So the thing is that Yang Gang right now may eventually, do we have any international groups? Do we have any, like, maybe Canadian Yang Gang?
There's Yang Bunde in Germany.
Oh, hell yeah, okay.
Yeah, we also
Australians be following our coverage for real, yeah? I would be surprised if there wasn't any Australian Yang Gang for real. Didn't they have those, like, marches all across the world and stuff? Like, but those are military bases? What was that? That was military bases, right? Okay, anyways, let's suppose that there was a branch of Yang Gang, right? And there was a leadership in there, right? But and now this group has a lot of different, like, leadership stuff. Like, you have, like, this constantly turning over board and stuff. You have elections and stuff, right? Yeah? What happens if there was a group that didn't have elections and there was a group of leaders that called themselves leaders, but they refused to have elections? Would you even help them? And they told you, and there was a group in that country and they wanted to have an election, and then the group that wasn't elected in tried to shut elections down. Would you be a party to helping them shut down elections? Because of their request? How do you feel about that?
Are you referring to the Russians or
just in general? Yeah, this might reflect on my situation personally, right? MPP, remember, does not have an elected leadership. It's all appointed, right? I'm just asking for an election for fun, right? There was no vote amongst the membership whether we should have this event or not.
Yeah.
What's the leadership going to tell you to shut it down? This event sounds like fun. In fact, aren't you a member of MPP? I've seen you at meetings. You deserve a voice too. Don't you want it to happen? You're my buddy. You seem like open-minded guys. Nothing but fun. Come on, man. I'm not hurting nobody.
Okay, this organization has other priorities. So, like,
I'm sorry. Okay.
with your own agenda. So just read the room and listen to what we're focused on. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're gonna go back to using Zoom hands. And next was Shane, then Angelo. Shane, what are you bringing into the conversation? It's always nice to have you here.
Oh, hey, thank you. I'm driving, so I'm at a stoplight now, but pardon the audio if it is not up to par. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. All right. Yeah, I could talk I just wanted to add a little bit about the New York March. Since we were going around the country there. It was incredible. We had a pretty solid turnout. It wasn't like nothing like BLM or anything like that. But people went around on the little loop, and then they went around twice. And we also had, that was a bike parade. And then we also had the eviction notice installation, just like Reverend Wendy talked about. And there was something interesting that I noticed about that, which I think is worth noting. Before the parade started, we had the installation up. It was at Central Park, right on like a pretty common pathway. A lot of people walking by. And we had our flyers, and we were kind of like, we were trying to give out the flyers and trying to alert people's attention to the installation. And then afterwards, after the parade, we returned back to that same spot. And I thought it was so funny, or, maybe this is kind of like, maybe this is self-intuitive for an art installation or for activism in general, but this is all new to me. But when people were walking afterwards, we were all tired and just like sitting on the lawn, and we didn't have any flyers left. We weren't trying to get at people, but what happened with that was people would stop on their own. People didn't, it seems like people want to just kind of discover things on their own. And there were people, they would come up, they'd be taking pictures, and they would like read all 4 of the signs, like top to bottom. And I just thought it was so interesting, the contrast between the reactions we would get when you're trying to sell someone to something versus when they're discovering it on their own. Yep, that's it. That's my statement.
Cool.
I'm
Thank you
curious,
so-
did you get any reaction from the museum? I know that there was a concern.
Not that I know of. If there was, I didn't hear anything about it. I know. Nice. I'm so jealous. I can't believe you got the Boston Globe to cover the march. Did I hear correctly?
Yeah, we did.
That's amazing. Yeah, we did not get anything like that. So good job. And I'm pulling into my garage now. If you guys are still on in like 10 or 15, I'll be right back.
Cool. Yeah, we should be opening up our hang pretty soon here. So.
I spoke wrong. It was the CBS Boston.
That was some great content. And I also saw that Los Angeles got some news coverage as well. Those Californians, though, they always just want to celebrate by themselves, I think. I don't know. Did anyone go to those events in LA?
No, looks like no one tonight here is from LA. We missed them. Huge as it was. It looks like Angelo, happy to have you on here. What are you bringing to the conversation? Thank you.
I just wanted to remind everyone, one of the great things about this movement is the fact that UBI is not one party or the other. So one of the great things about our messaging, and I would advise us being cautious about it, is just to make sure that we point out that this benefits both parties. So never being too heavy on this messaging on just one, associating it just with one party. Because if we make it politically advantageous for both parties, then it just becomes a game of who supports it more, rather than who's for it and who's against it.
That's a twist. Yeah, that's strategically smart to go. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then it doesn't become so much of like kind of trying to like bend with a crowbar, and we're trying to get Republicans to flip over and support a Democrat, because it's just mostly Democrats who are bringing that policy out. But yeah, we want to have pressure for Republicans to run on that platform. We do have Dr. Al Gross, who's running as an independent on that platform in Alaska. So he is someone who Yang endorsed. He's actually from the families, the son or grandson of the legislator in Alaska who started the oil dividend. So UBI, literally, it runs in his blood for Dr. Al Gross. Yeah.
That's amazing. I had no idea about that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's carrying the legacy. Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget that the Republicans are the ones that passed it under Nixon twice.
That's right. Yeah. Thanks, Angelo. Bringing us back to the history. That is so informative. To see
different bunch of Republicans.
Yeah. And then what happened? That was before Reagan era, Reaganomics of Reagan era. Yeah.
But you figure it fits perfectly with Republican talking points. Personal responsibility. The government doesn't choose how you spend the money. Small communities, they get more tax dollars. Less government interference, the states become more powerful with more tax dollars flowing in, so they don't have to earmark as much money for their states. All those things are Republican talking points that very easily could make UBI a positive for them too.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're absolutely right, Angelo. They are Republican talking points. It just depends on whose mouth they're coming out of, I think,
We got to find ourselves the right Republicans to talk to. Over the summer, July 11th, July 25th actions, we were going to the, confronting in a sense, Republicans who are not supporting the stimulus bill. But it's finding the Republicans who have already been speaking on economics, on values that align with UBI, whether they know it or not yet, who might not know it in that way. Suzanne was talking about diving deeper on the topic and gathering more sophisticated talking points, curtailing them to an audience. That's definitely our work to do. Again, vacillating with doing our phone banking, text banking for Suzanne Hug. Weekend of Action, September 26th and 27th, following a nice celebratory Sunday Night Live where we'll count up all of the calls that we made. I think our last announcement before we flip over to the hang would be coming from Yenny. Hi, Yenny. Tell us what's going on next.
So in light of RGB, I keep Ruth Bader Ginsburg passing. We're going to be hosting a movie night on Friday. 8:30 we'll be opening up the room, and then we'll start the movie at 9 Eastern. And we're going to be watching On the Basis of Sex, which is a biographical movie about her life. So I hope you will join us in coming and watching that.
Yeah, couldn't be a better time to come together than to come together around that. So that will be 9 p.m. Eastern for the movie. 8:30 when the room is open, so we can gather and mingle because the movie will start promptly at 9. And then earlier than that, at 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll have Humanity First Movement onboarding. So if you haven't gone through and learned more, maybe you're here tonight but you haven't gone through the full run of what we do and how we do it, then come on to our onboarding. Bring a friend, tell other activists or other people not politically engaged who because that's the kind of the core of the movement. That's where we start. 8 p.m. Eastern.
Or other Yang Gang that haven't been activated nationally or in their states yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go see people who you see on Twitter with a math hat or Facebook profiles wearing a math hat, and invite them to the movie and to the hang starting onboarding starting an hour prior. The onboarding itself is just about 15 minutes, then time for questions.
Did I hear that right? Friday.
Yep.
And
so onboarding at 8, hang at 8:30, movie at 9, and then hang after it.
And everybody's signing up for the Weekend of Action for Suzanne Hug.
Suzanne, yeah.
We'll be pumping that mobilized link into the chat all throughout the hang.
All right, I should probably know this, but how do I get to the movie?
I will be sharing links to that on Slack, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and whatever other platforms we send it out on.
All right.
Good questions, Clay. Thank you. Now everybody knows. Okay. All right. I think we'll cut the live stream, Andrew. This concludes our Sunday Night Live roundtable on the Basic Income March and much else. we've got some announcements popping into chat from Carrie. Barrington's election is next Tuesday, the 29th. Reach out to any friends, family, and followers in Atlanta and make them aware. Yes. Is his district, Carrie, Atlanta and any towns beyond Atlanta, or is it all Atlanta? District 5. Okay. So yeah, there's Google. We can find the whole map of District 5. Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. Right. So here we're for a hang. There are a lot of us here. How's everyone's
Yo, Brandon, let's talk, man.
yeah.
Yeah, doing well here. I've got to pick up my fiance from the airport in a little bit.
Go do
so
we can make things happen.
But hey, it was great to have Reverend Wendy here, and I just, as an interim board member, I just want to really send out a little message that we should try to work with her more. Really, she's the moral center in a lot of ways of our movement. So I love her vision, and I hope that was inspiring for all of us here. And that's really the kind of leadership that we need to cultivate as much as possible. A lot of us, come from simple beginnings, but we can all become leaders in our own right. So thanks everyone for being here, and thank you Suzanne for sticking around too.
Yeah, it was good to see you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, to Brendan's point, tweet your gratitude to Reverend Wendy. That's how I reached her to come out tonight. Reached out to her on Twitter. So yeah, go and tell her what you appreciated about what she gave this evening. So,
yeah, definitely. Since we're in hang time, I have a thought on UBI I wanted to run by y'all.
All right.
So
give it to us.
Yeah. Oh yeah, come on.
Because talking about just different ways to think about it, right? I'm in a red district. We got a lot of financial conservatives, and they all love their tax cuts, right? Nobody wants to pay taxes, and even for things they should. But one of the things I'm thinking about is UBI is actually a tax refund, right? Because where does the money come from? Taxes on giant corporations like Amazon. And what are they doing? They're refunding it to the people of America so that we can continue to increase our economy and build up our society, right? And we're eradicating poverty as we do it. But what if as a monthly cash tax refund that you get for being a participant in our economy?
Because I've been doing that already.
Yeah. You want more tax refunds?
Or that's what Martin Feldman, that guy.
Friedman.
Yeah, thank you. The negative income tax. That was the way he pitched it.
What about people that don't pay tax? What about people that don't pay? What about people that don't pay tax?
But everybody pays tax, right? In our economy, and it's not your tax that's getting refunded; it's the corporation tax.
What happens if you don't report income?
Doesn't matter.
You still pay sales tax.
Right.
Yeah,
we still run it like a UBI program, but I'm just saying, as far as trying to explain to people what's happening.
I mean, as close as you could get, I think is ideal, right? So if that's the best you can get, then
because I don't know people who are like, no, please don't give me a tax refund.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when you're like, hey, universal basic income, they're like, I don't know about that.
I know a lot of people that don't pay taxes, that don't necessarily live on the books. You got immigrants, you got people out of jail that just aren't responsible. You got street cats, you know what I mean?
But
they ain't
it's
reporting
not
nothing.
Your taxes that are being funded,
Yeah,
right? From the American tax pool.
Yeah,
I mean, but people ain't paying taxes. I know a lot of them. Yeah,
but I know they're still buying stuff. They're still getting taxed on that, aren't they?
I think it works. And I think that's why people shy away from it, because some people in power don't want it to work.
Hey, go for it.
Oh, there's a lot of people who are very invested in this not happening.
I'm not saying don't go for it.
But that's only because they don't realize the benefits to it.
That
Think
sounds
about
good.
this.
I'm for it. I am for it. I'm just saying, I think it's I I think UBI like itself is like the more better form, but I think that this is good. I think it's I feel like it's an intermediate step. I'm for it though. Like, I think you can get the UBI there. I'm just, I'm not against it, Good luck. I'll support you. Don't worry, I'll call for you. Don't worry, I got you, okay?
All right, I expect you to show up.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll be there.
In
I do what I
Barrington's
say.
congressional race, we have a libertarian opponent. And so we were having a conversation the other day, kind of like Suzanne was talking about, how do you frame it for libertarians, right? You got to frame it for all the different parties. And so the way that we were talking about framing it to a libertarian is more like a modified fair tax, right? And Republicans might respond to that as well, because I know a lot of Republicans were supporting a fair tax back in the W days. And so maybe referring to it in that way as well, since it's kind of a consumption on technology type of tax, that might help. But yeah, we definitely have to find out how we can frame it to these other parties, to what is important to them. Because I went to a Joe Jorgensen rally, and as soon as she opened up the floor for questions, I was like, what do you think about UBI? And she was like, well, I think charity should take care of poor. And I was like, well, you clearly don't understand the concept then. So we have to educate them. And by doing that, they want to close their mind when they hear something they don't agree with. So we do have to frame it.
Well, ask them this. How much more would people give to charities if they had more means?
Exactly.
Well, and that's the thing. Is I think when people hear the word income, they immediately associate it with work. And so getting over that is a big hurdle, just mentally, where it's like, well, why are you getting an income when I have to earn mine, right? And so if we talk about it, though, as an American tax refund, like, hey, you're getting a monthly American cash tax refund, people are like, oh, yeah, I deserve that. And nobody's like, well, I have to earn my tax refund. Like, right? This is money coming from the government because you're part of the American tax system.
Well, that's why Andrew had framed it as a dividend, because anyone that's in business knows what a dividend is. It is a return on your investment.
Well, and that's why I don't like dividend, is because you have to be in business to understand it.
That brings me to my view, which is that I feel like education nowadays needs to be a lot more important and center focused in politics, because so many people, I don't know the exact statistic, but a large portion of the American population only has a high school degree. They never went to college, and that is becoming increasingly more so.
Unfortunately, it's political in all the wrong ways. It's political in ways that teach you conformity over, original thought, and it's counter to the true tenets of science itself. It's a perversion and corruption. I'm sorry, man. The educational system and the medical system, all the large corporations and systems, and they're all bad. They all corrupt, man. It's all falling apart.
Well, exactly.
And add the prison system to that one.
Yeah.
They need to be more well-funded. The money needs to be allocated.
And if you want to convince those libertarians, just say, you know what? Instead of giving the $1,000 to you, I'll just give it to the government, and we'll spend it on some bureaucracy. How about that? They'll snatch that $1,000 out your hands in a heartbeat, right?
Well, I did get the guy, the libertarian running for Senate in Georgia, and the congressional one, to say that they would consider it at the state level, because I guess their main point is to less federal government. And I'm like, that's fine. If we can at least agree on the concept, we can go from there.
Just the fact that you're talking about it is already a travesty for them, right? Yeah. Are we spending government time talking about this? What the hell, man? Just give me the $1,000. We're done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You might be interested in some of the messaging I've been using down here in Tucson with a few of my friends that are very, very Republican, and it converted them very quickly. So one of the biggest Republican talking points, if not the biggest, you think Republican, this comes up first, the Second Amendment. Here's a fun little fact about that. The Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, is only really valid if you can afford to actually acquire those arms to keep and bear. Guns are not cheap. An average handgun is $500 or more. A rifle's over $1,000. So being priced out of their rights makes it a privilege of those who can afford it. They quickly got onto UBI very fast after that, because not only guns are expensive, the ammo to actually go out to the range to enjoy those guns is expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that concept of we have been priced out of our rights as an American people. Right? Like, oh, you're offered this. You can have freedom of speech, but only if you can afford to take time off of work to go express it. Right? You can have a lot of freedoms, but only if you can afford it. And this would really restore a lot of our freedoms as a people. I think that's really
This reminds me of the
powerful.
poll tax. You can vote if you can read or write or pay the poll tax, right?
Yeah. Clay, what were you going to say?
I just want to add, I am not a pessimistic person, but I tell you, one of the hurdles I think we're going to have to get over is, and I've seen it, it's happened so many times in this country that because a number of people don't want to see some group or somebody else have something, nobody gets it.
Mm-hmm.
I've just seen that so many times here, and you have to get over that, because especially with this, like, you mean you're going to just give them some money, and you get that they don't deserve it,
and that like scarcity mindset. If they're going to get something, I'm going to have to lose something in order for them to have something.
Oh,
yes, you have to get over that.
Oh, also, Yenny, I see your Zoom hand in the chat.
I had stepped away for a sec, so I wasn't sure if we were doing hands or what, but I think that's part of why Yang framed it as a dividend, because people understand dividend if they understand anything to that depth in the stock market, which unfortunately a lot of poorer people don't. But it makes it more sellable to people that are in that class of people who understand the stock market at a deep level, that are deeply tied into it, invested in it. I know that talking about it as a income definitely turns off people like my family. And I don't think that changing the name of it at this point will end up doing all that much for people who have been paying attention. Because a lot of these words are starting to bleed into each other for people. As they start learning about the concept and hearing about the concept and hearing all of these different names for it, they're associating the same idea to the different names. Even though they're all slightly separate, sometimes they mean different things. A guaranteed income is not necessarily universal. There's all sorts of different parts of it in terms of how it gets paid for as well, and what it overlaps with. That is all more subtleties and lends itself towards more of a dividend or a income or a refund or whatever else it wants to be called. So I think that the way we talk about it with people who don't necessarily really grasp what it is, the name matters. But with people who've already heard about it in one way, it's very difficult for another name to influence their opinion about it.
That is true. It's more, when you present it, it doesn't really matter as much what the name is how you present the benefits to them.
Yeah.
And that's just, true of any kind of marketing. You give people the benefits first so that they want to buy into it. Then you tell them how to do so. For example, with businesses, think about this for a moment. In 2019, 50% of the country was the middle class. You add in the 1%, and that is 51%. That is the entirety of the pool that every business in America is trying to market to. Everyone else is living paycheck to paycheck. They're not exactly going to be getting, much business from them, because most people don't have that kind of free cash to be able to spend on other things. So that is a whole 49% of the market that is inaccessible to most of the businesses in this country. Now, what happens when that 49% is activated? What will that do for the businesses of this country? What will that do for the economy of this country? And I think anyone that's even loosely interested in economics would.
Oh yeah, no, pretty much 99% of business owners should be on board with this, because it will put money into the hands of their consumers, their customers, and give them a chance to grow something in a small town, right? Because there's money flowing. We've seen the loss of mom and pop shops, Main Street businesses to the big boxes. And then we saw during the crisis that those big boxes didn't have the supply chain flexibility to actually then supply communities. But the mom and pop shops were more adaptable, right? We had local restaurants selling flour and eggs when you couldn't get that at a Target or a Walmart. I mean, the local businesses ended up supporting the communities, and the big boxes that had been pulling all this money out weren't there for us. So I think we really need to talk about local resiliency and how this will create that.
You know, the other thing I haven't seen on this is, has anybody like run models to show what it would do for the country, and then, you know, what that effect would be individually, personally, for their particular situation. But I think if you could talk about it in terms of good for the country, start there. And then, you know, that would, I hate to use the word trickle down, right?
Well, this is trickle up is what it is.
Well, there you go. So even the terms are different. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, trickle down
Well,
itself.
what Brandon put in chat, that rather than taxing people on their labor, tax people on their consumption. That makes sense.
Yes, and originally the payroll tax, the income tax, was supposed to be a temporary fix because we had slid into a depression.
Mm-hmm.
But once the revenue started picking up, as we stepped out of that depression, the government decided to keep it.
Oh yeah, I would love to see we go to a value-added tax on consumption. We eliminate the income tax, and we do UBI. It would shift the way money flows in our economy in just a massive scale. And there have been some economics projections on what UBI would do, and it indicates there would be a 12% GDP growth in the first year, because just money would be getting back into the economy. 12% GDP growth is insane. That's like an emerging economy. It would be the re-emerging of America.
Much like the 1920s, where we had the economic boom, we can make the 2020s have that same economic boom that may last a generation.
Mm-hmm.
But also, the beautiful thing about this is supply and demand. Every business tries to create an equilibrium with their market. As demand grows, they're going to need to hire to boost that supply. That's going to create a lot of jobs, and especially a lot of new jobs in technology that are good paying jobs, because more people will be able to buy things that they want, not just the.
Well, and I would argue it would create more local jobs, because here's the big businesses can automate a lot more easily, right? So if a giant corporation has to increase production, they might add a couple more machines to the line and maybe one supervisor. But if a small local business has double the customers coming in for the lunchtime rush, they're going to hire double the people.
Exactly. And that's where the community starts to really build from the ground up.
We need pictures. We need models. We need pictures. Pictures.
We need infographics.
Yeah. We do. We need things that show it viscerally and emotionally, where you can see that and go, wow, I want our economy to be on that trajectory, right? And then, oh, look, here's the average income. Here's where I am. Oh, I would be up here, right? People, I agree with Glenn. You need to see the personal impact that it's going to have. And if you make less than, I think, $120,000 a year right now, you will see a positive personal impact in a big way.
Well, you know, in marketing, they tell you people buy on emotion and justify it with logic.
Yeah.
And politics is no different.
Mm-hmm.
There's
And
one
that's
thing
the,
that I want
we
to
need to
get in.
become better marketers because we're all a
Yeah.
little bit nerdy here, we're all a little left brain.
Yeah, there's one thing that I wanted to try to jump in. So sorry about that. Thank you so much. Okay, so the thing is that we were talking about. Give me a second. Talking about the. I'm sorry. What were you guys talking about for a second?
Creating a
We're talking
personal
about
connection
UBI,
for
right? We're
people
talking about
with
trying
UBI.
to implement UPI. Now, the thing is that we just had this march, and I would like to know what our plans are for the future, right? Actually, I saw a lot of cool connections with local candidates, right? Like mayors for UBI, that kind of presentation. So we're at a certain point. What's the next step that we're going to take, right? Is there something more that we can do? I think that right now there's some other things that I don't really hear Yang Gang talk about that I would like to hear more about, such as during this time of police talk, right? You guys know about Yang's plans for having the safety chip on the guns, right? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
And body cameras on all police.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why aren't we promoting those solutions? Also, right? There's also that thing that I really love so much, honestly, sometimes even more than UBI, democracy dollars. Now, I don't mind focusing on UBI all the time, which it seems like we're always focusing on UBI, right? But if we are focusing on UBI, we already have some good wins with UBIs for mayor, stuff like that. Do we have what is our big goal that we're shooting for here that we're spending all this time talking about it versus these other things?
The main goal is the reason why we're focusing so much on UBI is because that one policy has the most impact on the most
what's our
amount of
next
people's
goal?
lives
What's
in
our
a positive
next
way.
target? I want to focus on that, right? I'm already sold. You're preaching to the choir, bro. I mean, I understand the concept. I'm ready to go out and find the next target. What's our next target? This march was cool. You know what I mean?
Our next target is converting Congress to being able to sell this idea to Congress.
How far
and
away
most
are we from
importantly, we are a few months away from that. Myself and Hannah Wan here are actually leading a team to testify before
How many Congress
Congress.
people we got on board? That needs to go. That needs to go through Senate since it's financial, right? So
Yeah, that's being discussed in meetings right now to try and figure out exactly who's signed on and who hasn't.
So
and
how would you
we can
average?
possibly get.
We halfway there, 40 way, 60. I don't know, 80.
I don't have that information in front of me right now. But
I don't think that's how Congress works.
Yeah, the thing is though, it's also when
Why
you're
not?
dealing
Some
with
people have
anything.
interest.
Yeah, when you're dealing with politics, the thing is there's two factors that have to go into it. One is, will this help or hurt my electability? That's a big factor that even
We'll
Congress
make it
people
in their
that
interest.
support it.
We'll make it in their
Exactly.
interest. They better do it. What are you talking about?
Exactly, but
Yeah,
the
okay,
question
so-
is when and
okay,
how.
good.
And the second is those that do support it openly, are they willing to make introductions so that we can pitch to other members of Congress and show them the value add and the political benefits of it? Because
All right.
it's not just good enough to sell it to one or two Congress people. We really